Hi, all. Good evening. I think it's time to start. So, first of all, I welcome you all for this presentation. And my name is Senthil, so I will be doing this presentation today. So, it's going to be a 1 hour presentation, and I'm going to talk about how to write good blog posts because blogging is certainly a very sought after methodology nowadays for knowledge sharing, brand building, for promoting your products and solutions. And not only that, even there are a lot of people out there who actually resort to blogging for personal fulfillment. So whatever reason might be behind your blogging adventures, I really feel that this particular session will be very useful. And definitely, this will be very useful given the context of the blogathon contest that is currently underway. We have book data. Just a second, guys. Actually, yeah, sorry for the interruption. So this will be very relevant in the context of the blogathon contest of KCD Chennai. So without further ado, let's get started. And by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat box in YouTube. So I will be checking those questions in frequent intervals, and I will be answering those questions. So how to write good blog posts, right? So basically, many of us are into blogging nowadays, and quite a few of us would also have intentions of soon getting into blogging. So how do we write good blog posts, right? Before I get into the actual topic, a brief introduction about me. I am Senthil, working as a principal software engineer in Ericsson. My primary role is basically I work on cloud native systems, large scale cloud native systems, which run on Kubernetes. And apart from my day job, I am the organizer of KCD Chennai 2023. And this is actually scheduled on the 22nd of July. And I am also the maintainer of open source project called as Kubefledged. So Kubefledged is a project that will help you to cache container images directly on the Kubernetes worker nodes. And my main interests are, of course, Kubernetes and all the related toolings and solutions and open source projects around Kubernetes. So the entire cloud native ecosystem and how to leverage the cloud native ecosystem for all the projects. And um, I also happen to have good interests in MLOps because that is what my day job is to develop MLOps systems. And I'm also a keen in I'm also very keen in learning about WebAssembly and keeping track of what is happening, what are the latest happenings in the WebAssembly world. And you can find me on Twitter and LinkedIn, and also you can find me on YouTube and Medium. So Medium is where I post blogs. So first of all, let me give you a very short historical overview about blogging itself. Okay, so the term blog actually originated from a term called as weblog. Okay, this was way back in 1999 when the term weblog was coined by Jon Barger. Okay, so that was when web was actually the World Wide Web was actually getting very popular, and people were resorting to put lots of content and share them using the World Wide Web. So A web blog term was coined where people used to post content, and then that content was shared with other people. So that was the basic intention of the term weblog. Okay. And then what happened in 1999 was Peter coined this term called as blog. Okay. Blog was basically a short form. So he jokingly broke the word weblog into two different phrases called as we blog. Okay. So one of his blogs, right? So he coined this term blog, stating that he was actually blogging. So that was way back in May 1999. So that is when the term blog was coined, right? And then subsequently, the way of the posting content in web and then making it accessible to multiple people, it was actually becoming very popular. And then shortly thereafter, Evan and Pyra Labs, they used the term blog both as a noun and as well as a verb. So a blog is a term that was used to refer to the content, and not only to the content, but also to the very action of generating that content. Okay. And that is when this term was used to denote both the noun and the verb. And then the term blogger was used, to actually refer to the person who actually developed that content. Okay. This is a brief history about how we got the term blog. So, what is the purpose of blogging? So, I don't have to actually really explain about what is blogging. I think many of you would be very familiar about what blogs are and what is blogging. But especially for this presentation, right? It is actually good to understand what is the purpose of blogging, because only when we understand the purpose of blogging, we will be able to refine the methodologies that we use for producing a good blog. So, blogging, the purpose of blogging itself could be for many reasons. So, for instance, it could be to promote a particular business or product. So, this is very prevalent. So, you can see companies having separate blogging sites. Even Kubernetes.io has a separate blogging site. Even CNCF has a separate blogging site and things like that. Um, and apart from that, you will see people resorting to blogging for knowledge sharing, right? So for instance, if you go to Hashnode or dev.to, or even for that matter to a certain extent Medium, right? You will see lots of people posting content around recent technologies, content around Kubernetes and cloud native and whatnot, right? And the primary purpose of doing that is knowledge sharing to a larger extent, right? So people want to share their knowledge to a wider audience, and blogging is the sort of the method of doing so. Okay. And the purpose could also be that the person who publishes the blog wants to get noticed within the community, right? So he or she wants to get started with community related activities, and they want to like sort of promote themselves within the community. So they want to get noticed within the community, and blogging is one of the tools, or blogging is one of the methods of achieving that. Okay. And again, it could be also that the person wants to showcase his or her skills and expertise on a topic, right? uh, you can see blogs which are very niche, which are related to very niche technologies. For example, technologies like WebAssembly, technologies like machine learning, these are all niche technologies that are coming up. And if a person has developed certain skills and experience on these niche technologies, and blogging is an elegant way of showcasing these skills. Okay. And you can use blogging for building your communities. Okay. Not only for getting yourself noticed within the community, but you can also leverage blogging itself as a mechanism for building communities. And again, finally, it could also be that you wanted to do blogging just for your personal fulfillment. Okay. uh, these are all some of the purposes of blogging. I can see some questions. So there is a question from Anshuman. What are the required flow diagrams that we have to attach while elaborating blogs with step-by-step way to implement? Okay, so I'll come to that. There is a specific slide I have on that, and there is also a question on how the winners will be announced. So, especially if you have any questions related to the blogathon contest itself, so we will not be taking those questions in this presentation. You can actually join the KCD Chennai channel in Slack, where you can actually post your questions related to the contest itself. So I will not be taking any questions related to the contest, but the purpose of this presentation is to give you a strong understanding on how to get started with blogging. Or if you are already into blogging, I am actually trying to share with you some best practices on how you can actually enhance your blogging skills. Okay, so let's get started. So, what are the elements of a good blog post? Okay, so when I say blog post, right? You might have read many blogs, right? And I wanted to just share with you just four distinct elements of a good blog post. So, if I say a good blog post, it is a blog post that is something very useful to a wider audience, and there is a wider audience that comes back to that blog post again and again for the information, right? And a blog post that serves the actual purpose of posting that. Okay, so if at all you want to actually write a good blog post, so the very first thing is a very clear subject. So you should be actually creating a good blog, right? And they should have a very clear subject and a point of view. So what I mean by that is the topic that you have selected for that particular blog. First of all, you should be very clear on that particular topic. Okay, basically what is the outline of that blog? So what is it that you want to convey? What is the topic that you have selected? Okay, are you actually trying to explain a technology, or are you trying to share your point of view about a certain technology, right? So whatever it is, you should be very very clear on the topic itself. And not only you, your audience should also be very connected to the topic that you are presenting in your blog. So like for instance, if you are making a movie, right, the story is a very fundamental foundational element of the movie that decides the success or failure of that movie, right? So similarly, having a very clear subject about the blog is very foundational for a very successful blog. So first of all, you should be very clear on what is it that you wanted to convey, or what is it that you wanted to write in the blog. What are the ideas that you want to present in the blog, or what are the views that you wanted to put forward in that blog? Or if you are promoting a certain technology, if you are promoting a certain open source project, right? So what is it that you wanted to explain in that blog? So you have to be very clear about that, and the blog post should also bring out this clarity very clearly. So that is a very fundamental thing that you wanted to have in a very good blog post. And second, this might sound a little bit trivial to you, but a very good blog post should also have a great headline, right? You might have thought out well, you might have researched well about the topic, you might be a subject matter expert about the topic, but a very good blog post should also have a very good headline. So whatever headline that you come up with that for your blog could very well decide how well the blog attracts the attention of the readers. Okay, because readers normally discover blogs via RSS feeds or newsletters or blogging sites or things like that, right? So there is always deluge of information that the user will have to go through. So if at all I'm reading a newsletter, so there will be at least 10 different blogs that would be mentioned in the newsletter. Okay. So if you want to grab the attention of the reader who is reading the newsletter, then you have to come up with a very compelling, attractive headline. That is very, very important as well, right? So even if you have a very good topic, and even if you have um, made out a good point in that blog, it is very important that you also have to come up with a very well written headline so that it captures the attention of the reader. And the third thing is what people call it as a hook. Okay. Let's say you have a very good topic, and you have also come up with the structure, and you have a very good headline, right? So the reader has now got attracted towards the headline, and then the reader has started studying your blog. Okay. So you have actually perhaps a 30-second time or a 60-second time duration. Okay. For for keeping the reader attracted towards your blog. So that is where you will have to place hooks within your blog, which will actually keep the reader uh, still attracted towards your blog and keep the reader studying your blog. Okay, so which means you have to pose some interesting problems during the early stages of the your blog post. You will have to post some interesting problems, for instance, or you will have to post saying that you have achieved a 10x productivity by using a certain tool or by using a certain methodology, and that will actually grab the attention of the user, and it will actually maintain the attention of the user. So I mean the reader, so the reader would want it to actually know how this particular author has achieved a 10x improvement in productivity by using this tool, or how this particular solution is achieving a very good latency or throughput, right? So within your very first paragraph or the second paragraph, you'll have to place hooks like this. Okay. And the basic idea is that you place this hook so that the reader wants to read your blog till the end. Okay. And this is actually very important. So so what happens is, sometimes even if the title is very catchy and if the title is very attractive, and if the content is little bit boring initially, people would never continue to read the blog. So that's why initially it is very important that you place these hooks, so that these hooks will keep the reader engaged, and these hooks will actually entice the reader to continue reading your blog. Okay. And the fourth key element of a good blog post is your solution itself. So once you have placed your hook, okay, once you have told that you are actually you have actually solved this problem, right? So once you have told that you have achieved this kind of efficiency, once you have told that you have successfully migrated your application and or things like that, so how well you establish the solution, or how well you justify the kind of hook that you planted in the beginning of your blog, is also a very, very key element of your blog. So it determines basically whatever hype that you created initially by way of giving a great headline, by way of actually planting the hook, how well you are able to capitalize on that hype. So it all depends on how well you structure the blog, how you are using resorting to diagrams, how you are resorting to very good presentation formats, whether you are giving some code snippets whenever appropriate, and things like that. So there are a lot of things that actually goes into place when you actually think about the solution. So basically you need to think about all these four elements. So first of all, what is the topic that I'm going to write about? Is it an interesting topic? Is it a topic that I am comfortable with? Right. So you first of all, You should be comfortable with the topic that you choose. You should be very confident about the topic that you choose, and you should have some ideas or outline on how you are going to present that blog. So that is element number one. And element number two is you have to come up with a great headline. That is as important as coming up with a very good topic. So once you have this great headline, right, which grabs the attention of the potential reader, then the third element is planting hooks. Okay. So the hooks are the ones that are going to actually help you in keeping the engagement of the reader. Okay. So it will actually keep the reader engaged to your blog post so that the reader will continue to read your blog post till the end, because ultimately that is what your aim is, and because ultimately that is what your goal is. You want your potential readers to read your complete blog. Okay, perhaps you are promoting a product, perhaps you are promoting a solution, or perhaps you are promoting your open source project, right? So you definitely always want your readers to read your blog completely, right? So hooks will help you in achieving that. And of course, you will have to follow it up with a proper solution, which means you will have to structure your blog. You will have to pay attention to how you can present your blog in a more readable manner and things like that. So good blog is a combination of all these four elements. Okay, good. So let's continue. So there are certain myths that are existing in people's mind, especially in the minds of people who are hesitant to resort to blogging. Okay, so some people think that blogging is actually only meant for certain kind of people, or they think that they lack the abilities to start blogging. Okay, so I thought that it would be very helpful to bring out some myths and realities. Okay, the first thing is the first myth is I wanted to talk about I need to be an expert on a topic to write a blog post. So this is a very, very foundational myth. So you don't have to necessarily be an expert on a topic to write a blog on that particular topic. The reason is, um, in fact, what I believe is no single person is an expert on a certain topic. Okay. A person can be an expert on a subset of the topics. Okay, a person can be an expert on a certain portion of the topic. So no, it's very difficult to find a person who is actually an expert on the complete topic itself. Okay, and second, or it's not, I mean, it's not, I mean, you are not here trying to write a PhD thesis, or you are not actually trying to write a paper that is going to be presented in a Stanford University or something like that, right? So here you are actually presenting your idea. That's what blogging is all about. And definitely you don't have to be an expert on that topic. Okay, the only thing that is necessary is focus on those four elements. So okay, so if you are clear about the topic, okay, for instance, if it is Kubernetes, you don't have to be an expert in Kubernetes. So you can simply talk about how to deploy an application on Kubernetes. Okay, so you can create a blog on how you wanted to deploy an application in Kubernetes. So you don't have to be an expert in Kubernetes to do that, right? So definitely this is a very, very foundational myth that I come across in many people. First of all, you don't have to be an expert at all. Okay. Only thing is you have to do your groundwork. Okay. So only thing is you have to do your research, you have to do your learnings correctly, and then you have to come up with ideas on what you are going to present in the topic. So if you are ready with that, you are good enough to do go ahead. Okay, so you don't have to be an expert. So second myth is I need to choose a topic on a latest trending tech for my blog to get noticed. Okay, so this is again, some people tend to think that it is always the latest trending technology that will grab the attention of the readers. That is definitely not the case. Okay, latest trending technology, for instance, large language models like ChatGPT or DALI, right? So these topics are definitely catching the attention of many users. even laymen, they wanted to understand what this chat GPT is. So obviously, if you write a blog on chat GPT, or if you write a blog on how generative AI can be used for solving day-to-day problems, obviously it will catch the attention of many readers. But it need not always be on a latest trending technology. Okay, you can very well write a blog on Linux, right? You can actually share your latest experience with Linux, and you can tell people what are the troubleshooting tools that are available in Linux. So, for instance, TCP dump, how to effectively use TCP dump, because TCP dump is a very, very foundational tool that is very essential in debugging any problems in a distributed system. Okay, so if you write a blog and present it well on TCP dump, and of course that will get noticed. There is no doubt about that, because there are many people out there using TCP dump. There are many people out there using Linux, using tools like Prometheus, using Kubernetes, using Grafana. Okay, so these are not latest trending topics at all. Grafana, Prometheus, logging, and all these things are existing for quite some years. So it is not that you should always choose a topic on a latest trending technology. So never get into that cycle. So whatever topic is relevant, okay. So whatever topic is important, okay. So those are the topics that will always grab the attention of readers, and that will always grab the attention of a wider audience as well. Okay, so this is a myth that you want to break. Okay, so if you are good at, let's say, Windows containers, okay, that is a very niche area. If you are very good at, let's say, for migrating .NET applications to containers, and if you have used Windows containers, and of course that is not a latest trending topic, but of course that's a very, very relevant topic, right? So how do organizations having this huge baggage of Windows applications modernize it by leveraging containers? That is of course very, very useful topic. So if you have something on that, definitely it is a very good topic to choose. Okay, it need not be latest trending technology. So that is the emphasis that I wanted to make here. And the third myth is I need to be well versed in written English to write a blog post. That is certainly not the case. Okay. And of course, see, I'm not actually discounting users who are well versed in written English and who are capable of producing very good blog posts. No, I'm not telling that that is unnecessary. Okay. But that is not always a limiting factor. Okay. If you can actually explain your topic in a very concise manner, in a very clear manner that is understandable by the reader, right? Without you being well versed in written English. So you don't have to use any flamboyant words. You don't have to always come up with some fancy terms that are regularly used by native English speakers. You don't have to always, you don't have to necessarily resort to using words like that, or sentences like that. So very, very simple terms, if you can express what you're trying to express, right? That is what is necessary. Okay, so don't think that you should always be well versed in written English for you to write good blog posts. In fact, if you see all trending blog posts in Hashnode or dev.to, you would see that people would have written blog posts related to Linux commands, and these blog posts would have actually gained some 2k or 3k reads, right? And for instance, very recently, not very recently, during KCD Chennai 2022, there was one person who posted a blog post about Git. Okay, and that was written in very, very basic English. The topic itself, Git is very prevalent, and many people are used to Git. But that topic itself, it was not a latest trending topic. And the content itself, it wasn't written as if it was written by a native English speaking person. It was actually written in very, very plain English. So that was actually very good. So I loved reading that blog. So it's not that you have to be an expert on a topic. It's not that you have to select a topic that is a latest trending technology. It's not that you have to be well versed in the written English. So all these myths, if all these myths are holding you back from taking the first step in blogging, so I want to assure you that all these myths are not real. Okay, so the reality is, if you have a relevant topic, and if you can actually do justice to the topic, and if it is very relevant, and if it is written in a concise and clear manner, such blogs are definitely bound to get noticed. Okay. Right. So now that we understood about the key elements of good blogs, right, and what are the myths, I also wanted to tell you what are the things to avoid in a blog. Okay. You might have a very good topic, you might have decided upon a very good headline, all those hooks and solutions might be in place. But you should be very careful to avoid these pitfalls. Okay. The very first thing is huge wall of text. Okay, so if you are actually writing, I mean, what you naturally do is whatever is in your mind is what you translate it into words, right? So sometimes what happens is a continuous stream of text comes. So when you keep typing, you tend to write a continuous stream of text, which will actually well up into a wall of text, and this can be very, very challenging to readers to assimilate the content. Okay, so if it is very monotonous, right? If it is very monotonous, so that it ends up into an huge wall of text, that will actually discourage the readers from continuing to read, because then it will look like an this will look like an IEEE paper, or a paper that is submitted to some other university. So definitely this will put down the readers. So this is, you have to be very, very aware of avoiding this. Okay, so always try to create multiple paragraphs, and even within paragraphs, right, use multiple sentences. Okay, so that readers will 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 assimilate a small portion of that content, and then they will understand that, and then they will tend to go to the next paragraph or the next section to want to learn more. Okay, so that is where you need to structure your blog. So you need to structure it in such a way that you don't end up writing huge wall of text. Okay. Right. The second thing that I wanted to tell is too many new terms, right? So if you are actually writing a blog on a certain topic that is very new, okay. For instance, maybe I can take WebAssembly as an example. Okay, so WebAssembly still is relatively new to many people, and if at all you wanted to write a blog on WebAssembly, right? You may have to talk about runtime. You may have to talk about bytecode alliance. You will have to talk about sandbox, because WebAssembly intrinsically has a sandbox, and there are lots of other different terms that you may have to use. So whenever you select topics like that, you will tend to use many new terms. Okay, and in certain situations you cannot avoid them. So so in instances like that, don't assume that your readers would already know the meaning of those terms. So if you are introducing a new term, so you have to be very conscious. You should ask yourself the question that whether readers would be aware of this term. Okay, if the answer is no, then try to give a very short explanation of that term in the brackets. Okay, so this will help readers. This won't actually demotivate the readers, and then it will encourage the readers to actually continue to read your blog. Okay. um, First of all, your first tendency should be to avoid using too many terms, new terms, or if at all you wanted to use these new terms, if it is unavoidable, you will have to bring in these new terms in frequent intervals. So don't bring all these new terms in a single paragraph or very next to each other. Okay, so gradually introduce these new terms, and also try to give a very brief explanation of these new terms so that users will slowly understand these new terms, and then they will actually assimilate it, and then they can easily understand your content. Okay. And the third thing that I wanted to highlight is usage of long sentences. I have come across certain blogs where the author actually uses a long sentence and it will run into a paragraph actually. So a long sentence occupying a complete paragraph, and this is a definite no in my opinion, because what happens is not many people, especially native English speakers, they will not be able to follow lengthy sentences. Okay. Lengthy sentences might be good in literary works, or it might be good in novels. Okay. Or in playwrights and things like that. Or if you are actually presenting a paper to native English speakers, or if you are writing a cover letter for an application to a university program, perhaps such lengthy sentences may be okay. But certainly a blog post is something that is intended to be read by a wider audience, because here the intention is to promote something, right? So either you are promoting yourself or your community or your business or your product, or you are promoting your skill, which means you need to reach out to a wider set of audience. And definitely don't use long sentences there, because ultimately it will kill the purpose of the blog, and people will not continue to read the blog, because not many people or not all the people are comfortable with long sentences. So make sure that you break these sentences into smaller pieces. Okay. Smaller pieces so that people can easily understand. Okay. So this is something that you have to avoid. Okay. Now that you know what are the things to be avoided, so we discussed three things to be avoided. So let me go back. So the first thing is to avoid huge wall of text. The second thing is to avoid using too many terms, too many new terms. So if at all you want to introduce new terms, introduce them gradually, and also provide a brief explanation in the brackets. And the third thing is do not use long sentences. Break those sentences into short ones. Okay. Right. Now, what are the things that you should include? You should necessarily or consciously include in your blog. Okay. First and foremost is pictures and diagrams. That is the reason is readers often prefer pictures and diagrams when you are trying to explain a complex concept. So if you are trying to explain a new concept, a new technology, or a new way of doing things, right? So for instance, if you are explaining how to integrate Prometheus with your containerized applications, so naturally, there will be protocols, there will be configurations, there will be UIs, there will be ports, and all these things that will come into play. And naturally, the preferred way of explaining this is by using diagrams, an architecture diagram, right? Or if at all, if you are explaining some request response scenario. Okay, so if you are sending in a request to a distributed system, and if the distributed system is sending a response, right? So you want to explain how this request traverses the different components of the system and how the response is emitted. So in this diagram, definitely then you will have to use either a sequence diagram, or if it is just or if you want to focus on the flow of data, then you will have to use a flow diagram. Okay, so just by explaining these things in words will actually not help. So in these cases, you will have to resort to diagrams and pictures. Okay. So you as an author, you have to decide when to explain things using pictures and diagrams, and when to explain things using just by words. Okay. So, I mean, it is, I mean, over a period of time, you will actually get the hang of it. So don't worry about that. First, but at least I can tell you that if you are explaining about an architecture, if you are explaining about a message flow, if you are explaining about data flow, right? So these are all things that you need to definitely explain using pictures and diagrams. Again, if you are explaining about configurations, or if you are explaining about code snippets, then you will have to include YAML configurations or whatever configuration, whatever format it may be. So use code snippets. Okay. So use YAML or JSON or Bash or whatever type of snippets that is appropriate for the content that you are explaining. Okay. And second thing that you might wanted to include is resources for further reading. So naturally, you want your users to actually continue exploring on the content that you described in your blog. For instance, if you are promoting your product, okay, if you are writing a blog about your product, then give them further resources on how to learn more about your product. Okay. Or if you are writing a blog about an open source project, right? So give them links about how they can learn further about that open source project. Or if at all there are some other blogs, which they can refer to as a continuation of your blog, you can also give that particular blog as further reading. So there is no harm in giving that. Okay. So always giving resources for further reading is a good practice in writing blogs, because the user, I mean the reader, after having read your blog, and if the reader feels that would be very very useful, then the further resources will help the reader in gaining more insights into that particular topic. Okay. And of course, good readers love good reading resources. So if you happen to have good reading resources, uh, definitely it is a good idea to include them as resources for further reading in your blog itself. And definitely you might have referred to certain resources like documentations, or you might have referred to certain other blogs, or you might have referred to certain articles, or even certain videos. Okay. So it is always a good idea to give references to those resources in your blog, so that people can after reading your blog, people can further check those resources to gain more understanding of the blog. Yes, so we are at the end of the session. So thank you guys. I think I really hope that this session was very helpful. And I really appreciate the time that you took for joining the session. And please do join the hackathon. Please do join the blogathon. Sorry, I was about to say hackathon. Please do register for the KCD Chennai 2023 blogathon, and please use the ideas that you got from today's session to write very good blogs. And wish you all the best for your contest. Okay. So thank you guys. That's it. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.